There's a therapy principle I learned that made a huge impact on me. Today I'm going to share it with you. I've been in and out of therapy since I was a kid. Some of it was helpful, some of it wasn't. But this one thing I learned a few years ago in a group therapy session stands out for me. The thing is this. We all have what are called core beliefs about ourselves, other people, and the world. These are assumptions that got embedded deeply in our brains, most likely when we were young and impressionable, and we accept these beliefs as true and live our lives around them. But sometimes, our core beliefs aren't actually true. Sometimes, we're living according to faulty assumptions and it's causing us harm. And we can undo this. What the group therapist told us to do is identify one of our problematic core beliefs and then write out all of the evidence we could think of that supports it, and all the evidence we could think of that refutes it. And then we would compare the two lists, which would almost certainly skew in a different direction than we'd anticipated, and use that evidence to work out a new conclusion that was more balanced and less black and white. The first time I tried this was with a core belief about myself that my mother gave to me, that I'm a big dramatic wimp who exaggerates every tiny bit of discomfort I feel. Because of this core belief, anytime I was sick or in pain, I automatically dismissed what I was feeling and told myself I was probably making a big fuss over nothing. One day this habit of dismissing my own feelings led to me getting some completely preventable second-degree burns, and that was my wake-up call. I sat down and started working through this core belief the way the group therapist had taught me. When I listed my evidence for this belief, a pattern emerged. Yes, I've been told on a number of occasions that I was overreacting to discomfort and it wasn't actually that bad. But I've only been told this by people with a vested interest in shutting me up. There was my mother, of course, who has a long history of ignoring anything about me that she doesn't want to deal with. There were a number of medical professionals who basically told me, stop complaining, everything's fine, when it wasn't, but of course they said that, if they admitted to incompetence, they could lose my business or even get sued. And I had an abusive partner or two who would hurt me and then insist that they hadn't, obviously to mess with my head and keep me from leaving them. I couldn't recall a single disinterested party ever observing that I overreact to discomfort. Only people who would benefit from silencing me. Then I started making my list of evidence against this core belief and another pattern emerged. The people who told me I was overreacting were generally wrong. For example, when I was a child, times that I woke up feeling sick and asked to stay home, my mother would tell me,
"You should go to school. You'll feel better once you're up and doing things."
Never, not even once, did that turn out to be true. It's clear to me now that mom just wanted me to go away so she didn't have to take care of me. On the medical side of things, I was getting a cavity filled one time and the dentist was using some kind of tool inside my mouth that had squeezy handles on it, not pliers, but something shaped sort of like them. The hinge part of the handle was resting against the inside of my lower lip, and accidentally pinched it. I flinched and yelped. The dentist dismissively said, "You're fine," and acted like I had imagined the whole thing, and I felt like I was losing my mind. But later that night I found a blood blister in that exact spot, proving that not only was the pinch real, it had been hard enough to burst blood vessels. I would say that flinching and yelping is a perfectly reasonable response to something like that. I came up with several other anecdotes like this, where I told a dentist or doctor or physical therapist that something was amiss and they said, "Everything's fine," but I had tangible proof to the contrary. I also came up with a number of anecdotes in which I deal with pain or sickness gracefully. For instance, I have a tattoo that took about 7.5 hours to get, and I did it all in one sitting. The artist ended up charging me less than he'd originally quoted because I'd sat so well and made the job easy for him. So, to sum up, all of my collected evidence pointed to me being able to handle discomfort when necessary, reacting to it in ways that seem reasonable, and accurately noting when something doesn't feel right. I was never a wuss or a faker. I was never exaggerating my feelings. Other people were minimizing them. The process of gathering evidence for this damaging core belief and then noticing patterns in it took probably under an hour, and yet the results were life-changing. I'm honestly mad as hell that nobody taught me how to do this earlier. It's not like debunking the belief made all my baggage around it vanish. I'm still working on trusting what my body tells me and holding boundaries accordingly. But trusting myself is easier than before, and I have faith that it will get even easier as time goes on. Plus, that initial realization that I was never actually a wimp or a faker was tremendous. Like a 1,000-pound weight had been lifted off me. I just realized I never did the final step the group therapist talked about, coming up with a new, evidence-driven, nuanced core belief to replace the one I dismantled. It strikes me that there are actually several implications wrapped up in the idea that I was a wimp and a drama queen, so it's not feasible to replace this with just one new thought. I think it needs several. I worked out some time ago that my sense of touch is more sensitive than average. Sometimes this means that I dislike a physical sensation that someone else wouldn't even notice. So one important replacement thought here would be, feeling pain at a lower threshold than someone else is not the same as making my pain up. To this I would add, my reactions to pain or discomfort aren't particularly disproportionate. Sometimes I even handle things unusually well. And, I generally have an accurate idea of what my body is feeling and what it needs. And, if someone is arguing with me about what my body feels or needs, it's likely that they have an ulterior motive that has nothing to do with me. I think that ought to do it. Anyway, if you decide to try to fix your own faulty core beliefs in this way, please be aware that the process may not be as straightforward as in my example. Sometimes, a core belief is so deeply ingrained that we don't consciously realize it's there. We see the world through the lens of the belief, but can't see the belief itself, like a fish that doesn't see the water in which it swims. So it can take some digging to work out what our core beliefs even are. Also, we've likely spent most of our lives reinforcing our core beliefs by obsessing on evidence that supports them and glossing over evidence that refutes them. I would imagine that in extreme cases it might be impossible to remember any past evidence against a belief, because we so thoroughly ignored it at the time. We may have to start looking for evidence from scratch, starting in the present. But with perseverance and possibly the help of some online articles, I believe it's possible to debug our psyches an enormous amount, on our own, for free. Do you think you might try this yourself? Do you know what core belief you would address first? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.